Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, coming to you on Monday, August 18th, as RIFC returns to action after 11 days off, looking to see how Jagermeister Cup will go against Birmingham Legion this Wednesday at home at Centerville Bank Stadium in the first must-win of the season. Can RIFC find a way to end their scoring drought to continue a deep run in this cup? Or does Mark Briggs and Legion Company have other plans in mind, looking for their first ever win against the Amber and Blue to end their cup dreams? Well, we're going to find out all of that and so much more. But to start things off, you know him, you love him, the one and only co-host, Mr. Jason Carey. Jason, how is it going, my friend?
Been a long day. I'm glad to be here. It's always a fun time to hang out with Kaylor. But you know, losing your wallet or maybe getting stolen from you, I'm not really sure how that happened. Not fun. Somehow I ended up almost 39 years without it ever happening, and it finally happened. But I realized the most frustrating part about it is not requesting new bank cards, things like that. It's fine. I didn't lose any money. But my rewards, like stamp card for Borealis, like, oh man, that's gold. How you can
reset the clock on your coffee whims. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. I'm glad that you almost made it into the 4-decade club. I'm a proud card carrying member of that because I have that card in my wallet and have not yet lost it. But I'm not here to brag, especially not on a night with such a momentous second co-host of the night, good friend of the pod. You know him all over the USL ecosystem, whether it's from his time covering the Birmingham Legion with his Hammering Down podcast, or one of the many faces giving you the play-by-play across all of the different leagues within the USL at the USL show, Mr. Kaylor Hodges. Kaylor, how are you doing? And welcome back to the pod.
Always good to be on. It's always good to talk to you guys. I'm doing pretty well. You know, get into the new gig. School is back, people. And a lot of you know that because it's the first time you haven't had to deal with your kids all day long for the last, 3 months or so. So you're welcome. I have my wallet. So I'm sorry, Jason.
It happens.
But I will say, when I was younger, I was really bad about leaving it places. The amount of times I would go visit my parents and they would have to like mail it back to me when I was like 16 or so. Like I would drive all the way from Cincinnati to Birmingham with no wallet. I'm glad I never got pulled over. Like, amazing. I don't know. It was bad. They always had to mail it to me. But you know what? It's right here. It's right here.
This is the most irresponsible group of podcasters I've ever met in my life, and I have to include myself in them.
I never claimed to be responsible. I've never once claimed to be a responsible person. So,
Jason, we're on the hunt for sponsorships at this point. Maybe we need to reach out to one of those tech wallets that you just eject the button and all the slim wallet profiles. Maybe it's time for an upgrade. So let's see if we can get you a Made in America slim tech wallet upgrade sponsorship. We won't get paid in anything except for one wallet for you to now have.
This is not because we're not sponsored, so no hashtag ad, but no free ads. I am a big advocate of the front pocket wallet. It does, like, it's shaped like your front pocket, and you don't have to sit on it all day long until your butt doesn't hurt.
Listen, I'm a huge fan of that. I've heard that by sitting on wallets, men lose like a year of their life because it like damages their sciatica or something. Yeah. So like more, hey, Kaylor, you're just ever the visionary. You're doing what we all need to do and get on the hype train of front pocket wallets. It's a thing, everyone. I didn't know that. Now I know it.
Yeah. It's shaped like a front pocket. It's right there.
The things you learn.
I'm sold.
Anyways, hashtag not a front wallet podcast. Let's get into the news of the week. And I think this one's for you, Kaylor, because this one definitely is going to be one of the bigger talking points tonight. Obviously, with most of the league off for that mandatory USL Pro break for mental health awareness, some kind of things not really happening this week. A lot of the teams are off, but one of the big things that came out of last week was a little bit of scandal, a little bit of drama, as one Danny Trejo, not the machete from the great, films of the 90s and 2000s, but Danny Trejo finds himself no longer a Birmingham Legion player, now transferred on to the Oakland Roots pending league and federation approval last Tuesday. Kaylor, you're closest to this in the sense of the impact it has to the Legion. Walk us through what's kind of going on behind the reasons that Trejo's no longer in a Birmingham Legion kit.
Well, let's kind of just stick to on pitch, right? Like, let's talk about what's going on the pitch. And it's the fact that Trejo has been super unlucky in his time in Birmingham, where the very first game he has here, he gets a concussion only 40 minutes in, misses several matches. When he comes back, he gets a couple of cameos, but he just little injuries. And by the time that he's healthy, the coach that brought him in, that he fit perfectly, is fired. So in comes a new coach who he's having to prove himself to. He can't really stay healthy. And it's not like it's just little things like little hamstring, little calf thing, a little like concussion's not a little thing, but it's one of those things, right? And his time here was just unfortunate. And I think it really encapsulates that the way that Briggs likes to play, he likes to have inverted wingers, which Trejo does, but that means you have to have wing backs that are going to do the overlap to cross the ball into the box or go to the top of the box and play those inverted wingers that can play it to the back post. That's how he wants to play. He hasn't had a consistent left back all year long. There was one game where he had 4 different left backs in 70 minutes, and none of them were left-footed. So, like, you have 4 wing backs and 1 winger who are all right-footed, so they're all trying to cut inside, so they're all trying to do the same thing, and he just hasn't been able to do what he does best. I think that it's an unfortunate position for Trejo to find himself in, but I also think there's the other side of this where you see that the replacement's already there, and Samuel Shashua, he's in on loan, and you can say, well, he's only here for a year. Chances are so is Trejo. Trejo is only going to be around for 1 year as well, and Shashua has the ability to flip either side. Trejo can go to either side, but you want him on his dominant right foot, cutting inside, go curl it to the back post. That's what you want out of him. We weren't really getting that out of him. I think that Oakland is a significantly better fit for him now. And trying to force Trejo into a lineup because he's that good didn't make the most tactical sense for Birmingham at the end of the day. Legion get a little bit of money. They get to move on from a player who didn't really fit the system, and that player gets to go somewhere where he does fit for a resurging Oakland Roots team.
You mentioned the on the pitch part of it. Obviously, there's some off the pitch commentary or coloring in between the lines. I think of his Instagram post where he was showing his feet at an airport, saying Cali soon or Cali bound soon before the announcement was ever made. I guess I want to ask you, we look back at the Birmingham project at large this season. Does this help Birmingham long term besides just the performances, like the optics as well? I feel like the Legion were kind of in this mindset this season. This was the season, right? All in on the player acquisitions, the money to be spent. They've now had to kind of try to continue to reverse course, right the ship with the removal of Sohn, now Briggs getting in his players. When you look at how this roster is constructed and you don't have, you think you're getting a proven goal scorer, but now all you've proved is he can't score goals with the Legion. What's that message that Birmingham's sending out to the rest of the league and maybe even the North American soccer landscape?
I think it was very funny, the Oakland Roots announcement. And I don't think
Can't hear you, Kaylor.
what about now?
There we go.
That's awesome. I love that for me.
So you think it's kind of funny, and then it was nothing. Your funniness was the silence.
Yeah, humorous. So the funny thing was, nice, that Oakland Roots posted ruthless, like he's ruthless, which was the one word that Briggs kept using to describe Trejo and other players on the team that they were not. he kept saying that no one on the team was ruthless. No one on the team was ruthless in front of net. And for that to be the word, I thought that was funny. I think in all reality, it just shows that no one is safe on this team. Arguably the best goal scorer in league history, arguably the best player in league history. I mean, you can't argue with the talent of Dan Trejo, not that one. You just cannot argue with it. And he's not safe to be shipped out to California. Granted, he's from California, so it's probably nice for him to go back home. But still, for me, I look at this in more the Oakland roots side of this, where they were looking really good under Phil Auber, and they bring in probably the biggest signing in club history, only in front of their earlier signing this year, Panos Amanakis. You reunite the two Phoenix Rising champions of 2023. You're trying to recreate a little bit of magic there. And it's about time that somebody from Phoenix went to Oakland as opposed to the other way around. Everybody went from Oakland. I mean, there was the one year where they took their coach and like 7 players. So it's about time that they returned the favor. So I'm honestly looking at this more from the Oakland lens than I am Birmingham, because I feel like there's really not a statement on the Birmingham side other than this player didn't fit and we wanted our money back.
Not even if Oakland unlock him and he goes on to have a prolific, end of the stretch performance.
I mean, I want to be pretty frank here. The team that's in 11th place couldn't score. Okay, congrats. Like, to me, it's pretty. That's a pretty cut and dry thing. Legion, who have struggled to score all year long, couldn't get a goal scorer. That seems to be a story of Legion, not a story of Trejo.
Agreed. Well, then let's get into this preview now that we know that one of your, what I guess, key signings that we were afraid of has been removed off the board. Maybe he wasn't that key.
At least now it was 2. We've already played Oakland, so we don't have to worry about that.
That's also correct. No, that's a great point. Yeah, you never want to see a player suddenly fall into form and then they line up against you in just a few short weeks. But let's get into this. So just as a quick recap, just to kind of where these two teams last stood before this break from the Players Association, the USLPA. Rhode Island FC, they get the 0-0 draw, a very familiar tale, Jason. It was so familiar that we decided, you know what?
Tale as old as time.
We're not even going to recap it. We just had a conversation about kind of where the club was last week with Tom Quinlan. And then, on Birmingham's side, Kaylor, listen, if there's one team we don't want to see do well, you're not doing us any favors. The Legion get hammered by Hartford Athletic, losing 4-1 at home. A kind of very familiar kind of sounding record now for Birmingham and their performances at their home stadium this season. I look at these two teams now, fresh off of what will be 11 days between. Jason, we'll start with you. 0-0, familiar 0-0. They keep the clean sheet. They continue to show a defensive mastery, but goals are still not coming here. Coming into this game, the importance of scoring goals, the history of how Rhode Island FC has scored goals in this competition so far, what has to change, or is the break just that necessary part and we should be smooth sailing here coming into this match we're going to preview in a minute?
I'm hoping the break helps. It feels like there's a tiny, it's like maybe slow, very gradual, like the team in the recent weeks have slowly started to get better. It's not good enough yet, but I feel like we've seen some improvement. The health of this team has gotten significantly better. And I think you immediately saw an impact with Koke Vegas in net. The back line felt immediately more comfortable, and for him to just turn around and pass the ball back to him. And I think on top of that, he made a bunch of huge saves in the last few matches. And I think that maybe, just maybe, we can kind of build on something here.
Kaylor, it's kind of the opposite direction for your group. Is this a rallying cry to galvanize the Legion coming into this do or die match in a place that they haven't done well against Rhode Island FC? One of their best performances so far of all time was at Centerville Bank Stadium. But is this a critical time and a statement that Mark Briggs needs to make with this Legion side coming into Wednesday?
I mean, yes, but close your ears. Two things could be true. Hartford is one of the best teams going in the league right now. Sorry, I told you to close your ears. I told you to not listen. And the second thing is, and I'm just going to be very blunt with this, it was one of the most pathetic performances I've ever seen in my life. No one cared. I can tell you 3 players that truly tried all game long, and 2 of them were subs because they were trying to stick into the team. No one else cared. It was truly pathetic. And to the point that some players tried to leave the fan meet and greet that Legion always do after the game. They tried to go instantly into the locker room, and they got screamed at by our general manager president to go back onto the field. And they got into a shouting match. That's where the vibes are right now. So, yeah, it's kind of up to Briggs to change what's going on here. But that's been his job for about 3 months now. I mean
well, we tie it back to the comments earlier from Trejo leaving and kind of a little bit of snarkiness felt in the social posts. Has Briggs inherited a broken locker room, or has he implemented so much change so quickly that the locker room's not responding correctly to what Briggs is trying? Because like no one can deny Briggs's pedigree, but is this too much too soon for this team, or what would be going on to have that kind of hostility after a result? And again, would you also say that the players weren't playing ruthlessly on that match?
You would be correct on the ruthless part, but the ruthless comment typically means that you have to get in front of net. So, like, you can't be ruthless if you're trying to shoot from the halfway line. I think, frankly, for me, I'm trying to think of how to word this. We are seeing a team that came in, and you are seeing the decline coming for about 3 years now. Everyone kind of saw the decline coming, but we weren't sure why, because the talent is there and the talent is really good. But clearly it comes from mentality, right? And I don't want to go full San Antonio FC, greatest champions ever 2022, but maybe there is something about being about a mentality monster, right? And there are players who go out there and it is sad. And there's sides to it. You can say, well, the stadium's too big, so they can't feed off the energy, but also no fans want to give a team who sucks energy, right? It's very cyclical in that sense. And so I feel like for me, you're seeing a locker room that has a lot of experience and a lot of guys who have a lot of fire, a lot of grit to them. But maybe the performances aren't good enough for them to warrant having fire and grit. And then they bring in these new players who are really good, and they're kind of assuming that their pedigree will get them through. And it hasn't. And the locker room, which was already not great, has turned even more. Is that because Briggs has been trying to change too much too soon? I don't think so. I just think that it's a complete cyclical thing of stadium too big. Fans don't want to cheer. Fans don't cheer. Players don't play well. Players don't play well. Fans don't cheer. And it becomes this big revolving door that the vibes are just bad.
Is there any chance this is also then related to, like, does this become a Jay Heaps problem for you guys? Because typically when, you need to go through the systemic order of coach first, then GM, president, if things aren't turning around culture-wise. Obviously, I don't know how you feel about it, but I know around the league, people thinking maybe Son was a little too long in the tooth, kind of maybe got the permission to stay longer than what was usually allowed within this league. Obviously, they take a gamble at the beginning of the season, make this massive splash on getting some quality players. That doesn't turn out. So now, again, trying to right size the ship. Does Heaps bear any responsibility, or does he get kind of a pass on the interim of knowing he did the first step of finding the new leadership, arguably, again, quality leadership? It just hasn't clicked yet. Or is Heaps also then in kind of some of the turmoil that's been caused by this?
See, this is where the relationship of Heaps and the club is fascinating, because while after Son was fired, Heaps became an assistant coach and was arguably the head coach. Yes, Eric Avila was named interim head coach. If you watch the matches, Jay Heaps was on that sideline screaming at every player, doing more of the yelling than Eric was. Like, Avi was head coach in name. Jay Heaps was undoubtedly the guy on the sideline. And Jay is very hands-on with the players. I mean, I told you, he was waiting in the locker room for players to go yell at, right? He went into the locker room after our press conference was over. He went into the locker room. We know that. And we got out of there before we could hear anything that was going on. Right? I did not want to be anywhere remotely a part of what was about to happen in that locker room. But that's the thing. Most general managers, presidents don't do that. That's like Billy Beane, Oakland A's kind of stuff. That's not USL director of football stuff. So I do think that Jay Heaps has a hand in this because he has a hand in this. He is more hands-on than your average director of football. You also look at Connor Smith, who is both, right? He's a director of football and head coach. But that's not what Jay Heaps is. He is just the president, director of football. It'd be like Michael Parkhurst going into the locker room and screaming at players.
You're saying it hasn't happened this season. I can neither confirm nor deny it has.
I'm not saying what has or has not happened. I'm just saying normally that stuff is reserved for worst case scenario. But he's known for being this hands-on. So yeah, I do think that Jay Heaps has a hand in this. But you also can't argue with the talent that he's brought in. He has signed some of the best talent that this league has to offer. And it's because players want to play for Tommy. People want to play for Mark. People want to play in Birmingham where they have their own training facility. They have their own place to go. It's a very affordable city. He does a great job at marketing really good players to come to Birmingham. He flexes his former, New England Revolution muscles really well, getting a Juan Agudelo to come in. That's a huge name to come to Birmingham. He does an amazing job, but both can be true. He can recruit talent, but he's probably a part of the reason why the talent turns sour in terms of attitude.
I think that's fair. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out performance-wise. I have some opinions we can share a little bit later in about what this cup run means to both of these individual clubs, kind of in similar states of form, both in the regular season play and as well as this Jägermeister Cup. But Jason, walk us through what is the head-to-head record, not to pain, our dear friend Kaylor with some unpleasant memories, but what's the overall head-to-head and kind of what's been the history so far of these two clubs facing each other this season?
Yeah, so RFC and Birmingham Legion have had 4 meetings now between the last 2 seasons with 3 wins and 1 draw in the favor of RFC, outscoring them 7-2. It's improvement, right?
Hey,
this season,
we're only going up.
Absolutely. This season, early on, May 14th, RFC away 1-0. There was a red card first half. The
wheels fell off.
Wheels kind of fell off, but at the same time, to be fair, RFC was kind of holding on there a bit at the second half too.
How was that match?
And then 1-1 draw.
I was trying to remember that match off the top of my head. I was like, wow, when did that one happen? Which 1-0 was that? Forgot. Anyway.
And then 1-1 draw at home on July 5th, where of course it was inevitable.
Thanks, Turney.
Yeah.
Steven Turnbull to
assist
to a Ronaldo Damus goal is the fuel of nightmares.
It was written in the stars.
Yeah, terrible.
So
Kaylor, obviously you're one of the few clubs left that we've remained unbeaten, at least in the Eastern Conference. So thank you for that. The best news of the day is even if you somehow beat us on this midweek matchup, it doesn't count in regular season. So we still hold the record for at least another season. But having said that, kind of want to see what you can take us through. We saw the first sampling of Briggs's Legion in that July 5th game. I'm not sure that we were ready for what happened. And then kind of reflexively, the game, that game didn't feel like it was an accurate pre-game test for
the second half
match.
Was pretty much dead, if I remember.
And that's the thing. Yeah. So I guess can you and this is the thing is we try to do homework. We usually, even if we have a great guest like you on, we still try to do some preview of the club to make sure we know where they've been since the last time we saw them. And I honestly cannot understand what trajectory the Birmingham Legion are trying to set themselves up for, both from a tactical standpoint, from a roster selection game day perspective, for like player management. Like I don't know what this Birmingham Legion is trying to become. So can you walk listeners and ourselves through what is Briggs trying to construct down in Alabama?
Something with a pulse. I don't know. I think that the first meeting, and I was trying to remember, that was when Sam McLaughlin gets sent off in the first half, where first he gets a first yellow card, and a couple minutes later he gets a second one, and he didn't really get many chances after that. A
The
bad way
next
to introduce
day,
yourself.
they went out. You guys went out and signed a DM too, right?
Edwin Lasso,
Yeah.
who has quickly turned into one of the worst players I've seen wear the shirt. I just got to be completely honest with you. But he plays every game. And
Kaylor, I need to
yeah.
interrupt you for a second. If you
Sure.
have a friend or a family member you know that is suffering through football depression right now, make sure you reach out to that person and check in on them and make sure they're doing okay. Those kinds of
Yeah.
things can happen to the best and the worst of us. So just check in on your friends and families, especially if you're a Legion fan at this moment. Anyways, Kaylor, I'm sorry. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So, but I'll get to Lasso because he is truly an enigma of a player. And I say he's one of the worst because he's actually really good, but it doesn't seem to work. But I'll get to him. In the back, I mean, you kind of have an interesting dichotomy going on here where you have two very good goalkeepers, but they are the direct opposite of each other, right? Where you have a Matt Van Oekel who he is a big boy and he can go through billions of bodies to collect a cross, and he has sure hands, and he is one of the best shot stoppers that this league has ever seen. But do not ask him to pass the ball. Like he can complete a 5-yard pass. He can kick the ball about 70 yards. But when you're looking at someone who's looking to distribute and be a Coque Vegas type, that's not him, right? Meanwhile, Fernando Delgado has quickly become, as kind of self-proclaimed, but other players say it too, the best passer on this team. Like they say that Fernando Delgado is the best distributor that this team has. Like I've heard from some players that he can hop in the midfield and you would never know. Like he is that good, but he's young and he can't fight through bodies like Matt Van Oekel. He can't catch balls like Matt Van Oekel can. And so there's a lot of punching. There's a lot of losing possession because he can't collect. So what does coach want? And this is why I'm asking. That's why I'm saying we don't know, because do you want someone who's sure-handed who can collect balls but is not a fourth center back? Okay, that's Matt. Do you want someone who can stop the ball but is not going to be as safe of hands but can ping a ball over the top, like what happened with the goal from Delgado to Turnbull to Damas? That goal was because of Delgado, not because of Turnbull or Damas. It was such a good ball by Delgado. Then in the back line, you have a Birmingham native and Jake Roof, who was getting the most touches per game, but he's suddenly out because they bring in Malik Howell, who Malik Howell's a Jamaican international, very good player. But the last 2 games, he's looked bad. So he's out of the lineup. You don't see him much anymore. What about Thiago Suarez? What about Famil Kavita, who's a stalwart of this league? AJ Patterson's been very good since his return, so maybe he's the one that's safe. Then you look at the left back side. You have Dawson McCartney, who's good, but he's just now getting healthy after being just riddled with injuries. He's the only healthy left-footed player on this team besides Tyler Pasher. So he kind of has to play unless you want to put Steven Turnbull out on left back, which you can. He's been very good at it, but he's not left-footed. He has a decent left foot, but he's not left-footed. But unfortunately for Turnbull, Sevatar Garthen has turned into the bright spot of this club. He has been an amazing right wing back. And Turnbull has kind of lost the shirt because of it. But personally, I'd rather have Turnbull on the left side and have them both go up the wings. And then we get to the midfield. Easily the worst part of this team. And you look at Enzo Martinez and you say, how could this happen? But it's because Enzo's having to play the 10, the 8, and the 6. He's having to do all 3 jobs, and that's not possible. And then you look at Edwin Lasso, who cannot complete a 5-yard pass. If you watch him complete within 5 yards, he cannot do it. but he can play one of the best diagonal balls you have ever seen. He is going to ping a ball to a sprinting winger, and it is going to blow your mind. But if you ask him to pass to the center back beside him, I promise you that Albert Dequa will be getting that ball. Like it's an enigma of a player. Ping a ball, great. Simple pass, no. And then you get up top. Yeah.
We have like 17 CDMs on our team. If you need us to spot you one after this match, we'd be happy to negotiate something.
There's one guy I think you know who I want.
Oh yeah, you're not getting Corcoran.
I think I miss him.
But you're only not getting him because we don't have the power to give you him. That's a Nashville decision.
Well, yeah.
And if
we also might not even have him for that long.
If we're being honest, we're going to lose him when the U20 World Cup starts to happen anyways. So we're only going to enjoy him for about as much time as you got to in the last season he was playing with the Legion.
I will say, though, with Corcoran, please enjoy every minute of him because he is a gem of a kid. He is a wonderful kid, and he is so good. He is so good. But, yeah, I mean, it's just a midfield problem. And so you're asking questions of what is this team trying to be? No one knows because we keep putting talent into places and you keep saying how good the talent is, but it doesn't work. So it's a lot of trying to find pieces that have a pulse. I'm kind of equating it to Lexington SC earlier this year when they signed every player who's ever breathed. And then they just kept changing the 18 all year long. And then suddenly they got really good because they stuck with the same 18 for 3 weeks in a row. And suddenly the players were like, oh, I saw you at training last week. Cool. So
classic hot volley stuff, you know?
Yeah. But that's kind of what's happening in Birmingham right now.
I think to Lexington's credit, they have 22 players on loan that they've purchased this season and no longer field. So, because I don't think they sold them on.
That's the Brighton Chelsea special, you know, just buy player, loan player. We'll get a profit eventually.
Buy high and sell low, profit someday. Yeah. All right. So before we move on into the actual review, Kayla, I want to ask you this. I don't know how much you follow the patterns of the team and how much you look into that when it comes. I'm a big like roulette guy of if it's been black 3 times, it's got to be red, you know, the next time. Of course, that's a fallacy. It never helps, and that's why I'm a terrible gambler. But I do look at this Birmingham side since the last time we squared off against them on July 5th. You're 2-2-2, but both of your losses came from home performances. You seem to be doing admirably better when on the road, including the draw against us at Centerville Bank Stadium. I want to ask you, you know, the last time your team saw a win at home was June 18th. We saw one most recently on August 6th against Detroit. I want to ask, how does the makeup of this team being an away performer versus kind of negligent at home play into the favorability of what Briggs is trying to accomplish, knowing that there's so much in store and on the line in this Jägermeister Cup match this week?
Well, I've recorded my episode for Hammering Down that's supposed to be coming out tonight or tomorrow morning, one of the two. And I said that this Jägermeister Cup, Legion have a really good shot at it because we're a wild card team, and that means none of our matches could be at home. We have been an away team for the last 3 years, notably when we changed stadiums. Ever since we moved to the new stadium, that's way too big and has no life, we've been an away team. So it's not really a pattern thing as much as it is, honestly, data. It is real deal data at this point. Legion go away, they tend to play better, especially at rowdy environments. The rowdier the environment, the better they seem to play. And so with this being a cup match for Rhode Island, I'm not saying it's going to be a sellout, but the fans know what's at stake. They know it's a chance at silverware. They're going to be a little extra rowdy on the night. And this is probably going to have some players who are going to start who don't get the chance very much, because Briggs outright said that players who played for the shirt this last week or 2 weeks ago at this point were going to get a chance. So it feels like those players who showed some heart and showed some grit are about to go to a way where they're going to be able to be the heel, be the bad guy, and feed off some energy for the first time in weeks. I suppose they're going to do a pretty good job.
So what you're saying is if we just don't show up and it's a quiet crowd, we'll win. Those are my keys to the game.
We got
right
a
there.
Miami FC it.
Honestly, idea. It's not a bad idea. Just no one shows up. It's a closed door friendly. Legion lose 7-0. Congratulations.
Yeah, we'll watch at the bar across the street or something. It's fine.
I do appreciate the fact that Kaylor just said that the Legion show up against loud and rowdy crowds. And I think we currently hold the USL loudest record, whatever that they did for that. I mean, it'll get beat.
The decibel thing, yeah.
Once Louisville has a full house with that awning, they'll beat us out. But for now, I'm glad that we're the loudest team in the USL, and that's just going to fuel the Birmingham Legion. All right, well then let's get into this. Let's talk about some of the things we do know. If we don't know what Mark Briggs is going to deploy, and I'll also tell you right now, Jason, we have no clue what Coach Kano is going to deploy on the night either. So we should have called this podcast the Game of Unknown, because that might be what it is. But we do have at least some things we can share from an injury perspective and just kind of share where we're at from that side of things. So we know that Grant Stoneman is questionable. I did see him with my eyeballs last week going through five-a-side training. He was sprinting, he was cutting. So it tells me that the knee is getting stronger and stronger. He's pretty close to getting ready for it. Frank Nadarse most likely out for another week, maybe 2 at max. Had a small hamstring injury. We don't know the extent of exactly what kind of strain it was, but it wasn't more than a couple, 2 to 3 weeks worth of recovery time, so that's good. And then Kaylor, we talked to you ahead of the show, and you thought that maybe you had 1 or 2 players that might not be available on game day selection.
Yeah, that'd be Moses Mensah, who's one of the left wing backs who looks like he's making his way back. And one guy that I got to be honest, I keep forgetting he's on the team because he only made 1 appearance and got hurt, is Cameron Lacey. He's out for the season, it appears, but he only made a 5-minute cameo like 2 months ago and got injured in practice, so kind of not worth even talking about. Sorry, Cameron, that was really mean, but like in terms of like the wider scope of things and who people need to know about, Moses Mensah, the left wing back, is the person to know, who I feel like has been the best left wing back that the club has had this year.
Got it. Okay. And then let's get into the preview of what we think we actually might see here when it comes to this roster. And Jason, I'm going to trick you. Don't look at the notes. Look at the graphic, because I made some changes. Okay. I see you getting ready to say it. I was like, wait a second. This is what I think it's going to be. So I'm taking full command of guaranteed predictions, ready to be wrong.
Okay. I love it. All right, Jackson Lee. It's a cup match. You stick with your cup keeper. If you switch that, it's cursed.
Absolutely. There's no way Kano isn't going to have Jackson Lee starting in that, despite Koke's return and run of form.
Then we're going to look at that back line there with Ugo Bacharach, Karifa Yao, and Ame Mabika. We've kind of just played 3 back lines now, so I think that's what we're going to just keep doing.
Bacharach went through concussion protocol afterwards. It's been enough time between matches, unless there was something they discovered from that, which would be like season or career-ending injury. He's most likely going to be available, so we have him in the back line.
Clay Holstead at right wing back, because why not? Corcoran and Ibarra in the midfield with Aldair Sanchez out on the left. And then that front 3 there of Jose Quizera, JJ Williams, and busy Dwayne Atkinson up top.
Listen, I know we went back and forth. Does Maxey find a way in? But when you look at the last couple matches, Maxey has not found his way into guaranteed starts game after game, with the options of Atkinson, with the favorability of Corcoran, and we know that Harivo's now returned to health. That midfield, like, I don't see a place that Rodriguez shines brighter.
The one
than
thing I
else.
would maybe argue, though, and I could see this too, is that also Jose Quizera hasn't had a great season. So I could also see him being thrown up there as that left winger. And we've seen that when he gets played in that front line, he likes to roam and drop down into the 10 and kind of move around. And then we've seen in the last few weeks when we've been playing this kind of formation that those 2 winger positions are flexible. So that would also allow Busy to either occupy the left or the right, depending on like what he feels comfortable, But at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised to see Joe J there as well.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him invert the wingers, flip them around like at every 15-minute segments just to kind of disrupt Birmingham's planned defenses on this match. But, you can swap a couple of different key pieces here, but it seems like Kano is going to keep the 3-4-3 through the remainder of the season. And, maybe the strike force up front, maybe we have that a little bit wrong. Don't know if Atkinson will actually get the start here in his second appearance ever, but at this point, you got to find goals. And the last time we saw goals in the Jägermeister Cup was Chico, and I just don't see a way that he finds the start given his drop in performance over the last few matches. Kaylor, we'll go to you. You cover this club in your other show, the USL show. Obviously, talking about Rhode Island FC's form, having to every week punish myself and watch and read John Morrissey's articles, watching us drop further and further. I think we're going to be in position 26 pretty soon out of only 24 teams in the championship. What have you guys been saying at the USL show over the last couple of weeks, and what's been the observer view of RFC's run of form when it comes to not just the overall, but especially the goal production?
I mean, I want to do a little deep dive. I want to leak some DMs between us really fast. Whoa, the attack is not it. The attack is very predictable. The attack is very front-footed, and I think it comes from the fact that there's no one filling in the top of the box to create any kind of space. There's no one making off-the-ball runs for JJ or Chico to get in behind. There's no one really doing that. But the defense is awesome, man. Like, the back line is really good. The defensive midfield is really good. And I think I've seen a lot of on social media, the center backs suck. The CDMs suck. Everybody sucks. But when your attack can't get forward, that puts more pressure on the back line. So when they make one mistake, it's the mistake. But I feel like that assessment from some fans isn't fair. I feel like the back line has been very solid. It's been very good. It's the going forward. Last year, what we saw with Rhode Island, they were doing their best, was you saw Dequa making off-the-ball runs and creating space for J.J. Williams. And when J.J. Williams was able to operate in space, specifically in the playoff run, Dequa would make space. Someone would run over to the side on the right side of J.J., and he would have yards to shoot, and he's good enough to pick a spot. This year with Dequa, when he was by himself, no one was making those runs. Nobody was creating space for them. People were able to get two center backs on him, and there was nobody making a run for him to pass to. And listen, Chico's a good player. He's capable of passing the ball. That's not what I mean. But there's a reason why in Pittsburgh he had 20-something goals and 0 assists, like a proper Carmelo Anthony, right? Like brother's here to score. And so he can pass, he can assist. We saw it with St. Louis when he was there. But that's not what you sign him to do. You don't sign him to be a false nine to play it through. That's what he needs, is someone to make that run, hold up, play, and go, or to make that off the run himself, off the ball run. For me, it's the same conversation we had last time I came on the show, which was, what was that in May, guys? It was a long time ago. We're having the same conversation now as we did then. Nothing's changed there tactically. They keep bringing in, as you mentioned, all these defensive midfielders, but there's no one to play the 10 and fill in that space behind. There's no one to make that run off the ball. Maybe the secret is playing JJ and Dequa beside each other once again so they can play off of each other, because that's where it's best. But then one of the 17 billion center defensive mids have to go to the bench or not make the 18 altogether. I feel like the team has kind of shoehorned themselves into a certain tactic out of necessity because of JJ's injury. But now JJ's back, and they don't have the flexibility to go back to what worked last year. And I think that's a really hard spot for Rhode Island to be in. But to me, playing Dequa and JJ together and letting them have that striking relationship is the only way going forward.
One, I appreciate that you just called Coach Cano Smith insane, because the definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And he's your compadre. Like, you guys are homies. So I'll make sure I cut this particular clip in so that we can really make sure, because we know he listens to the podcast.
Don't
But
DM me, Kano. Don't DM me. It's okay.
second,
I miss
I I agree with a lot of what you're saying. We actually a week or two spotlighted the in the heat map and the passing grid. There's a complete absence at the top of the box, right where a 10 could distribute, even if it's laterally or backwards. There's just no midpoint relief. And we've also identified that this team doesn't seem to like to run into space to create passing sequences or passing lanes. The attack is very
static.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I would argue, and I'm curious, because you said something earlier about what the Legion are struggling through right now.
Yeah.
Formationally, we have a lot of flexibility in different formations, but we've argued at length this season that we're playing these players in the wrong position. So in that graph we showed a second ago, Clay Holstead as a right wing back. We don't have a right wing back on this team. So if you want to do a 3-5-2
Rivera,
but he's not a right wing back. He's a classic gentleman's fullback. Like,
I mean,
could he
Stephen
do it?
Turnbull
Sure.
wasn't a right wing back either, but he did
And
a
look
great
what
job
happened
there.
to him. Where did he go? Exactly. It's interesting to me that you're right, though. I don't think we have the flexibility, but then I would argue, as good as the center backs are, they still need support from the rest of the cast. And in the wings, we seem to not have an identity there. We have a left back in Aldair who's masquerading as a left wing back, who will go up to our left winger, but most of our attack is going through that channel. And then on the right side, we have Frank Nodarse injured at the moment, but then it's just, we don't even play Danny Rivera in that right back role. We have Rio Hope Gunn, who's a right center back. We could play him in right back. We don't do that. I'm curious, just from your lens from afar here, is playing players that are not in their natural position does that help teams in the championship, or is that just because you're resource strapped and sometimes you got to do what you're doing? Or do we need to go out? I don't know. Is the transfer window open? Can we still go get a right wing back before the end of the transfer window?
Yeah. Technically, there's not a transfer window. There is a roster freeze, which means that players signed after the roster freeze can't play in the playoffs. That's what that means. But that is, I want to say that's the beginning of September or the end of September, 1 to 2. And I don't have that date off the top of my head.
I think we would just accidentally buy another DM, though, is the problem.
You
Probably.
never know when you need another one. Hey, listen, you could do the Legion thing and say, Zach Hervo, you're a center back.
I
Like,
mean,
he was
we
last
actually did that.
He was last week when Bacharach got hurt.
Everyone loves the Zach Hervo as a center back thing. It was one of my least favorite things, but he was always really good at it, so I couldn't really get mad at it. But it's like, why are we still here? But I think there's a little bit of teams look for flexibility, right? The calling card of Tommy Sohn was he had 11 players that could all play in 10 different positions. The only player that couldn't play somewhere else was the striker and the goalkeeper, right? So I guess 11 players, 9 positions. Everybody else could slot anywhere else on any given day, right? So the Swiss Army player is absolutely a thing in this league. Heck, even look at Charleston. Like, they played Husu, like the best number 6 of this league has to have. They played him at left back in the U.S. Open Cup against the MLS team because Ben Pureman's a sicko. But like, a lot of teams do it. Honestly, the only teams that you don't really see doing it is Louisville. And they're Louisville, right?
Remind me where Louisville is in the rankings.
I think they're somewhere between 1 and 1. So like that the best team that this league has ever seen for the last 10, 11 years is the only one that doesn't really do Swiss Army knives. And they still kind of have a couple of them. I mean, Sam Gleadle is the definition of Swiss Army knife. He went from right back to striker in one game for them because he can do that. I do think it's just the kind of the nature of the beast of the USL. You're kind of strapped for cash a little bit. And frankly, you're finding players who are falling down the leagues a little bit. who are able to float a little bit more, who maybe they were a winger, but they can be a really good wing back because they're a really good player, or going up the league and, hey, they're a really good winger, they'll make a good wing back because maybe they're not ready for that level. And so you see a lot of that flexibility going forward to back because of just kind of the nature of where the league is.
Well, I don't disagree with anything you just said, and I also blame Birmingham Legion for how Coach Kano has adopted a majority of his tactical strategies. So thank you to you and to Tommy Sohn and Jay Heaps for that. I honestly, I do like Kano, and I am very much on the train of I think he can still do a lot of good for the season. I would just argue that it's really difficult sometimes when I'm not an educated person in these matters, but I can still see like, well, why don't you just put a person here, like just in this space, and let them do the thing and stuff. So it is frustrating at times, but time to move on to the Legion. We talked at length that you don't know what Briggs is going to set up for this side either. Do you even want to attempt to let listeners in on maybe what they could see, or should we just say your guess is as good as anyone else and we move on?
Well, I want to give you my guess, but your guess is as good as mine. I want to go with Fernando Delgado in goalkeeper. And then I'm going to go with Malik Howell, Famil Kavita, and AJ Patterson as the back line. At left back, I'm going to go with Dawson McCartney. At right back, I'm going to go Sebastian Tregarthen. In the midfield, at the holding midfield, I'm going to go Sam Michelatan over Edwin Lasso. Some of Coach Briggs' comments after the game made it seem like Michelatin's going to get more chances. And after 10 days, maybe this is the chance. It could just be Edwin Lasso again. I look like an idiot. Into Martinez is like the one guy I feel like is nailed on as going to play. He is going to do it. And then you have Captain, I can't believe I'm saying this, Captain Tyler Pasher, who that's just a random revelation that's happened this year that midway through the season, it's Tyler Pasher after being Enzo. And then on the left wing side, Samuel Shashua, who comes on loan from Minnesota United. And then up top, Renato Damas, also the only not a question mark.
Love to hear that he'll be making the trip. That's always what you want to hear. The guy who scored more goals against us than any other man within the championship. Kaylor, is there anyone that you'd want to spotlight? I know you were pretty high on Sebastian earlier. Is there another player? Or is that who you'd want to deep dive in and give Rhode Island FC fans a little bit of understanding of what they're up against this week from a player profile perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Michelatan. I just want to point out that he's both Australian and from Maine. It's that I don't know how you do that. Like, he grew up in Australia. His parents are from Maine. I just wanted to shout that out because you've never heard that before. And then Sebastian Tregarthen, he's been our right wing back. He actually got playing time in I'm trying to remember which one, the most recent Jagermeister Cup because of a clerical issue. They meant to put Steven Turnbull's name down as the starter. They accidentally put Sebastian Tregarthen, could not change it because of league rules. He played when he wasn't prepared to, had the game of the year, and has not lost his starting job since. So, I mean, Sebastian Tregarthen.
Sometimes you just need an opportunity, you know?
Just need an opportunity. I mean, he's been really good all year long, and he tries really hard. The only thing about Sebastian Tregarthen is sometimes he tries a little too hard and like gets himself into trouble because he's trying so hard to make a pass, to make a dribble. And I mean, I'm not joking to you. I promise you at least once in this match, he's going to try to dribble so hard that he will fall. Like, it does happen every single game. But I mean, the kid puts in full effort every single time. He's fast. He can put in a shot. He's not afraid to take a shot despite being a fullback. And the other one is Samuel Shashua, who comes from the Tottenham Academy, played in Liga Dos, or I guess I don't know what the second level of La Liga is, whatever it is. And then he played there for a little while. Now he's on loan from Minnesota United. He is a really good player, really good at putting in crosses into the box. So now you're going to see a little bit of, honestly, a Tommy Sohn special that we used to see a lot of, just wingers switching sides all the time. So you're going to see inverted wingers to traditional wingers putting in crosses or trying to cut in on the left or cut on their dominant foot. So you're going to see a lot of changing formations with those guys. But those are really the three that I just want to toss out there.
Joke's on you, because that's what we do here at Rhode Island FC. So this should be a fun little stack up of competition. I'll also say, to counter your Australian Maine connection there, we have an Australian American in Jackson Lee, born in Utah, and then became, I mean, he is Australian, but then went home to the motherland. So we may have a little battle of the Aussies this weekend too, especially if he continues in his cup tie run. I don't see why, again, he wouldn't get pulled. Jason, looking through this and just kind of talking this out loud, both of these teams on the lower end of the table standings, Birmingham not even in playoff contention at the moment. Rhode Island FC is hanging on by a thread with teams that have multiple games in hand. Both of these teams could be on the outside of the playoff line by the end of the season. Is this chance at hardware for both of these teams create a level of desperateness that exceeds any other matchup of the weekend? Does that make this the go-to game to watch it on Wednesday?
I think so. I mean, win 3, and that's it at this point with where we've gotten to in this Jägermeister Cup run. I think both of these teams have a lot of talented players. Maybe both of them are struggling to put together something very coherent at times. But that's the fun thing about, the cup magic is, knowing that the result maybe, doesn't always, it's not part of that long game. It's like win here and you move on. You only have to focus on the one thing at the time. It could prove to be an exciting match.
Kaylor, on your side of things, is Birmingham, are they taking this, are they all in on the table, so to speak, or do they know what's at stake and that this might be the only hardware for the season?
I mean, if they don't know what's at stake, I don't know what to tell you at this point. That this is absolutely what's on the table. I think this is the one true chance at hardware. Maybe the team gets it together and they do have the talent to go toe-to-toe with most of the top 4. And, hey, any given Sunday, if you will, right? Like anybody can knock off anybody in the playoffs. But this is the chance for Legion to have the most success they've ever had in club history. The most success that the team has had is playing against Inter Miami in the U.S. Open Cup. They haven't made a deep playoff run. They've won one game fully in the playoffs. It's not like they've made it to the U.S. championship, the USL championship final like you guys have. Like, this is a club that's been around a long time without a ton of real deal success to see. This has to be it. Also, look at it from the club side, and I don't like saying this, but there's financial incentive to win the Jägermeister Cup. There's no financial incentive to winning the USL Cup or the USL Championship. There's none. There's no prize money for winning the USL Championship. There's a lot of prize money to win the Jägermeister Cup. So on the club side, it's in their best interest to put out the best 11 absolutely possible, because that's the money they can get back. That's one more year of operation. And I know we don't like thinking about that at the championship level. We don't like thinking that we're trying to stay open for another year. But even if you have a stadium, if you have a training facility, you're always fighting to stay open, to stay alive at this level. And if you win the Jägermeister Cup, that might just be enough. And somebody might point at Northern Colorado and be like, well, they won it and they didn't stay open. The league kept their winnings because they weren't paying their players. The league was paying their players. They literally, the USL Championship, or the Jägermeister Cup was used as paying off debt, right? Like, that's what this is what this is for. This is a chance for teams and clubs to get money, which you don't get from the USL Championship at this point. So, yeah, I mean, they have to, on every front, you have to put every foot forward.
Jason, this is a really weird question. Just have to throw it out there, but while this is the most important game, the first must-win of the season, also on the tail end of this week is the final round of El Clamico in a series that has kind of given Rhode Island a little bit of a black eye now this year, having failed to win at Centerville Bank Stadium on 2 occasions and kind of letting Hartford into this quarterfinal round. I mean, obviously they earned their way, but Rhode Island FC had the ability to squash their rivals' chances and their hopes and dreams. Now very much Hartford on a completely different trajectory, like Kaylor had said earlier. With that being more of an optics game and this one being the one that matters in the immediacy, could you see any level of rotation so that Kano can get the best of both worlds? Or, as you so much love to hear him say, does he have to take this one game at a time? And if he's got to play these players into the ground at the expense of a Jägermeister, or excuse me, at the expense of an Oklamico just a few days later, that's what has to be done on the day?
I mean, we just came off a break. So I'd say
These
2
players
games
are
in
ready to
1 week.
die.
Like, they got to go out there, play for the badge. Do I expect to see like 1 or 2 little rotation? Sure. Nothing wild, but I'd expect we have like 400 midfielders. So like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is too, a lot of them are good. We get into the situation where like, well, I could make an argument for all 4 of these midfielders to play, but I only have 2 spots. So I think we'll see a little bit, but I think that this is clearly the more important match. And I think he'll go all in on it.
Question for you, Kaylor, and then Jason, to follow up for each of your respective coaches. How close are both of these individuals to finding their, quote unquote, starting 11? I think both of these squads have been so heavily rotated, so much chop and changed, different tactics. Obviously, Legion benefiting from a coach rotation here, whereas Kano more dealing with an injury issue for this season. How close are these teams, if you had to timeline it or percentage it, to finding the best available 11 that they have at their disposal? Kaylor, we'll start with you.
Oh my gosh, I really don't know. I would say probably if I'm going to go percentages, I don't know what's 1 divided by 11. I mean, less than 10%. What is that? About 8% ish. I'm going to say about 8% because Renato Damas is going to start up top. Other than that, I have no idea. And like, there are players who are going to start, but I don't necessarily think are the best players to play. Like, I love Enzo Martinez. I think Enzo Martinez is the most successful player that this league has seen. I think you can argue Dane Kelly over him, but who gave Dane Kelly most of his goals? Most of Dane Kelly's goals come from Enzo Martinez assists, right? But I don't know if Enzo is the right player to be playing in this midfield. And I haven't thought that in about a year and a half. But his fire, his energy is what keeps him on the field. I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions everywhere that I think it's going to take balancing who's going to play for the badge, like Jason said about, surviving these next 2 matches of Jägermeister Klamico. Who can play for the badge and who has the talent to play for the badge? Because if you have the talent to start, but you don't have the attitude, you're not going to win anyway. And I think that's the balance you're having to fight with Birmingham. Is the best 11 talent-wise, or is the best 11 the ones that are willing to fight for a full 90?
Jason.
I think we're almost there. It's difficult to say, though, because we just threw 2 new players into the mixer, right? Corcoran just got here. But we also don't know how long he's going to be here. So that's kind of a weird variable. We're like, okay, well, he's here for a month at least, unless they call him back sooner. And we've seen, 30 minutes of Dwayne Atkinson. And I think 25 of those minutes we were pinned back in our own half. And so he got like 4 or 5 touches. And there was a few opportunities where you're like, oh, this guy has speed and he has like good dribble. Like, you could kind of see something there. So I think it's very good that chance that he might make his way into the starting 11. But I just don't have a large enough sample size to like lock on to that. I'd say we're probably have to pull a number, maybe around 75-ish% there. I think to a certain extent that back line is pretty much locked down. Frank has had a bit of a rough year. If anything, if he comes back into the team, I might expect to see him more in that right wing back position. And then if all of a sudden we lose Corcoran, well, then Clay just takes his spot.
I would say we're not locked on the back line. When Grant Stoneman is able to return,
Who does he take over?
I still think Bacharach is a 6. Again, we're all defensive midfielders.
So then Clay is just still a right wing back.
I think the perfect system is Bacharach in the 6 with Mark and Clay slightly higher in a double pivot of 8s, not 6s, that start to fill in the gap more towards the top of the column. And then Bacharach, we've seen him. He free ranges like an Australian cow, just ready to go and graze wherever he needs to go. So I think that would be the future after Corcoran leaves us at some point. But
I mean, he does look like he's got the Busquets or the Rodri in him,
yeah,
where he's just that Spanish number 6 style. I don't know. I
mean, it doesn't matter because Kano's going to pick what Kano wants. So what really matters here, gentlemen, is do we agree that Stephen Turnbull will make the starting 18, get on the pitch, and get a revenge round 2 goal or assist against Rhode Island FC in this match?
They're going to score the exact same goal again, I guess.
Make the 18.
This time he'll play a left back.
I hope he plays left back. I genuinely hope he plays left back because I think that Dawson McCartney is going to start, but I don't think he's the best option to start. He's just not match fit. But yeah, I think he's going to be in the 18. I think he might get minutes. I'm not sure if he's going to do the same thing he did last time because I do think that assuming that Sebastian Garthen has a good game, he's going to go over to left back and maybe you're not going to see it be the same kind of moment.
Don't worry, he'll find a way to produce.
I have a question for you guys, actually. Mabika, where is he at with you guys?
Fantastic.
He is little slow at times, but other times he gets up to speed and he just looks like he can run through teams. But he's very comfortable on the ball. He's very confident. He's a good passer. I just think against maybe someone like Adamas, he could get burned.
Yeah, he can't get to speed fast enough, but once he's at speed, he's faster than anybody. It's like a train leaving the station.
And if somehow we knew how set pieces work, I mean, I feel like he could it'd be like dunks.
So the reason I asked that, because you kind of mentioned the backline situation. I think that when Corcoran leaves, I think that Mabika would be a great choice for, and I'm not just saying this because of the number he wears, the number 6, because I view him as a very similar player to Noble Okello, who's out at Phoenix Rising, who is a 6'5" CDM. He's very good with the ball at his feet. You don't have to be so fast because you don't have to have the same recovery speed. You're kind of sitting in your own little pocket. And he's so big that I think that he can just kind of get a foot to anybody within the football lines, right? So I don't know. I feel like if we're trying to put somebody into CDM because, yes, all number 6s, I think that that's who I would put forward for Stoneman to come back. That way you have a little bit more length there and you have a little bit more physicality, and you already see the same kind of prototype in Noble Okello out in Phoenix.
I think that's a great observation. I would say we're operating on a little bit of insider knowledge that we've talked with key members of the technical staff,
sure.
And they brought Bacharach in as a 6. And remember, he was sidelined for the first 5.5 months of the season. So we were all expecting, with his height, the fact that he came as a CB from Minnesota, that he would be one of our back line. We just needed to get him healthy and get him ready to go. And then in his first match, he came in for some garbage minutes, but it came in as a CDM. So we're like, oh, okay, well, that's just the position we needed. And then the club came out and said, no, we intend, when possible, to use him as our 6. But again, Kano has also made a lot of other efforts and plans and strategies. And Kano will be the first to tell you that he wants duality or versatility in his players. So he very much could kind of reinforce the back line and Kano make the decision no, we found the spot for you. Grant Stoneman has played a 6 this season as well, now that I think about it. And so basically every you talked earlier, Kaylor, about what players move. There's only 2 players that don't move in positions on our team, and that is Karifa Yao will always be the center of center backs, and JJ Williams will always be our target striker. Koke Vegas, I can't even say it because he'll play as a center back, so he moves all the time in his positioning. So we can't even say that he's positionally sound there. But it's a good problem.
Stands in the opposition half the time.
You guys never really got to truly experience San Diego loyal Koke.
We saw it at the end of the first seasons we were getting
Well-
ready to come in, but yeah,
Nate Miller using Koke Vegas was like just nasty work. He was like, you know what? Maybe you can get on the other side of the circle and, distribute a little bit more. Maybe you can push up a little bit farther. Oh, don't even stand in the middle. Go to the touchline. I don't care. You're Koke Vegas. I don't care. He was really pushing the boundaries of what a goalkeeper actually is. It was hilarious. You can definitely tell that Kano got his badges next to Nate Miller. It's very obvious.
absolutely. All right, so let's wind this down. We don't know what these score predictions will be, but we do have one thing we need to talk about, and that is in the spirit of Jägermeister Cup format. This game cannot end because it is an elimination round. It cannot end on just a draw. Even though, despite I looked at the numbers, 13% of people believe this game will end in a draw. They must be referring to the fact that it will require to go to a shootout if that happens. Knowing the history of Rhode Island FC performances and their inability to score in non-Jägermeister Cup matches, and knowing that Birmingham has never beaten Rhode Island FC, I'm going to ask you both, is this game destined for penalties? And if so, which team is in a better position of strength for penalties? Because I think we could both argue why each of our teams is not the favored penalty shootout winner here. Jason, we'll start with you.
So would it be like hilarious if it was a draw and it goes to penalties, and rather than one of those ones where everyone just keeps scoring, neither of us are scoring? It's just complete ineptitude, and it's like we're like 1-1 penalty each way.
I think the law of probability would like argue that that's almost not possible, but I still like it and I'm there for it. I want the torment of a non-perfect game.
Just tons of misses on the penalty line.
Kaylor, I wrote in the quote, so I was going to say that Van Oekel has never saved a penalty. I read that on a Reddit somewhere, and I'm glad that you are fact-checking that is not correct. But what are the odds that, one, if Van Oekel is in net, how well will he perform? And two, who's really the shining hero on the day when it comes to a PK battle of the duels here?
The goalkeepers, I don't know. Legion are also historically really bad at penalties. Even as spot penalties in game, Legion are below average. When I say average, I mean the percentage. I believe that Legion have only converted about 72% of penalties in club history, which is a 4% decrease from the XG, which is the expected goals, which is the percentage that it will happen. So they're not a good penalty team. But Fernando Delgado, who I think is going to start this match, is very good at penalties. And under Tommy Sohn, sure. But we have seen this Legion team sub out Van Oekel when it comes to penalties before the penalty shootout to get the better penalty saver onto the pitch. At that time was Trevor Spangenberg. So I wouldn't be too shocked to see Koke Vegas or like Connor Smith kind of do the same thing if need be, if Koke is the better penalty saver of, hey, right before the full-time whistle blows, we're going to get Koke in there to let him save a few. I don't know who's actually better or not. That's just, Connor Smith has been a part of that before. He has seen it before with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds playoff match a few years ago. I think that Fernando Delgado has a lot of confidence and that he is a very good goalkeeper. Now you just rely on, I think if Legion can score, I'll just say 4 out of the 5 of their penalties, I think they move on. Because I do think Fernando Delgado is that good at penalties. But that also requires Legion to make 3 of 5, which I have zero confidence in.
I mean, when you look again at and I'll just put this back up without formatting it here. I mean, you've got off the bench Chico, if you saw, and historically have missed some penalties. Haribo, Rodriguez, Hope Gund, and Amos Shapiro-Thompson. Amos didn't miss. Those are all proven penalty kick takers. So if we're looking at substitutes that may have a kind of towards the end of the game impact, I'm not necessarily sure that besides Maxi, that we have a sure thing when it comes to PKs. So
Maxi and JJ, but that's only 2.
Who knows? And that's
No.
JJ has to stay in for the full game.
Zach's not bad at penalties. Zach's a pretty decent penalty taker.
Well, we will see, and hopefully it doesn't get to that. So rather than focus on a draw that has to get to one of the most frustrating moments in a soccer match, being a PK shootout, let's talk about how our respective teams could actually pull it off and win the whole thing. Kaylor, we'll start with you. And how does Birmingham not only advance, but finally earn its first win against RIFC in club history?
I think this one comes down to having midfield completing passes. Can the midfield maintain possession? We have seen this team be able to maintain possession through the back line, but can the midfield do it? If the midfield can hold possession, which when Legion went up 1-0 against Rhode Island in Rhode Island, that's what was going on. And then the press from Rhode Island disrupted the passing. It makes it 1-1. That's how that one ends because the midfield couldn't hold on to possession anymore. If Legion can hold on to possession via the midfield, I think they're going to be able to maybe not come out on top, but be able to have their best possible chance to come out on top.
Jason, what do you got for Rhode Island FC?
Assuming Atkinson plays, I think we need to get him the ball. I think we need to kind of see what he can do for this team in terms of hopefully creating opportunities, not just for himself, but for JJ. On top of that, I think we need to keep Damas quiet. He is scored against us every single time he's played us so far. At some point, that needs to stop. The RFC
Well, he didn't score in that one. The one in protective when y'all won.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's just change that to every time he's been on a team that has scored against us, he's been responsible for one. How about that?
Yeah.
So it's either way, he is a threat. So they need to kind of keep an eye on him and contain him. I think if he scores, that gives them a really good opportunity. And I think that they also need to finish this in 90. I'm not confident enough in our penalty taking skills. At some point, obviously, you probably want to get better at that, but let's just win one in regulation time.
And I would double down on that and say, we've been saying this like a broken record all season. They have to score first. And we have this great stat that we've won every game where we score first since the Colo Spigs match of last season, the first one that we ever played them. And that's all fine and dandy, but the reality is that we don't score in second half of most of our matches. So it's kind of, if we don't score in the first half and we don't score early in first, we don't usually score, let alone win the match, and that doesn't play to our strengths here, having a home field advantage against a team that we've never lost to. That being said, too, I was actually surprised pulling up some of the defensive stats. I knew that Rhode Island FC was a great defensive team, but I didn't realize how many goals Birmingham had conceded this season. 32 goals, the fourth most in the league as of now. And ironically enough, they struggle mostly in the first half. They've allowed 20 of their 32 in the first half. So we talk about like game management. We talk about how do we kind of rattle the cage. I think Rhode Island FC has to figure out a way, no matter if that means committing numbers forward, being a little bit more brave, looking at net first versus keeping, because sometimes I feel like this team keeps that first 15 minutes of like, we're going to get tested, but we're not going to get ourselves shaken just yet. And then they try to find a way to like get themselves into the game. That may need to change in this one. And you just got to go for the throat early on and try to disrupt Birmingham. But at the same time, and I know it sounds contradicting, you also have to respect what Birmingham has done in this Jägermeister Cup performance string. We know that despite RIFC has kind of led the way in this cup performance.
They're right there behind
Birmingham,
good results.
Right behind us. They've registered the highest XG of all remaining cup teams, 7.71 in group play. Like, that is no laughing matter. And that includes like thinking back to Chico's hat trick. Like, Birmingham has done it better from an offensive standpoint. Now, did they convert as many goals? No, but they are not a team that is going to be not looking to find a way to score goals. And so I think if Rhode Island FC can stay compact, but still come out the gate swinging, I think that's the best avenue for this group. If they let it draw out, if they don't take chances and it gets towards a 0-0 or a 1-1, game going into the 90th, I think this game slips away from us. And I think Connor's going to have to realize very quickly you can't play back, you can't play safe on this one. You got to be a little brave, and you got to go for the goals.
Yeah, you mentioned the first half goals for Birmingham against Birmingham. This team was really good defensively for, I would say, about a month when they were playing AJ Patterson and Thiago Suarez / Rami Zamuda and Jake Roof. Then they moved away from those guys for some reason, and they started conceding goals again. If you're Rhode Island and you can score one in the first half, you will score second, because that's the way that this Birmingham team has worked. When there's one goal, a second goal is coming within the next 10 minutes. That's always how it goes. Look at Hartford. Hartford scored one goal, and then 3 minutes later, they scored a second. In the second half, in the extra time, granted, Legion were going for it, and they were pushing players forward, so kind of hard to take from it. They scored one goal. 4 minutes later, they score another. That's been the story of this season, is once one team scores one, a second one's coming. When we played against Rhode Island at Centerbank, we got lucky. Birmingham did, that you guys scored right before the halftime whistle, because you were immediately knocking on the door again. That's how this game goes, that if Rhode Island gets one in the 15th, in the 20th, in the 30th, you have to feel really good if you're Rhode Island. But I also will flip that. If Rhode Island scores in the 15th, 20th, 30th, but doesn't get a second, I think they're going to be going into the locker room saying we missed our chance, because this Legion team can score. They can create chances, and this is a team that has been known to kind of give up after conceding a goal, and we didn't take advantage.
In the regular season, I think we've only have one multi-goal performance, and that was the North Carolina match where we won 2-1 at the death with a penalty in the 90 plus. I don't think we've scored multiple goals outside of the Jagermeister. We've done it in Jaeger, but I don't think we've done it in the regular season against a championship squad. And make no mistake, this Birmingham Legion side is a championship squad, and they are playing like their lives depend on it with this hardware on the line. So I want to ask this question then, just to kind of wrap things up and play a little prophecy game here. Up on the screen, I've got the quarterfinals set for this Wednesday for all the remaining teams here in this first round of knockout soccer for the Jagermeister Cup. And I want to remove our teams from it. I still believe that of all these matchups, this game is the most exciting, because I feel like these are two of the most desperate teams right now. I want to ask you guys, who do you think, assuming one of our teams is the winner and we move on to the final, who's the other team out of this lot that we would see go into the final, regardless of a home or away matchup? Who's the other team that's got the most clout or the most to fight for it and pull off a cup run?
Is it random, the seeding for the next round?
Every round will be randomized,
okay.
With the exception, like Kaylor said, the wild cards cannot host. I think they host the final, though, because at that point they've earned their way, Kaylor.
Maybe. I know it's random through the next two. I don't remember if wild cards get possibility to host in the final. I don't remember that off the top of my head.
I mean, when I look at this, going match by match, I just want to pick Greenville Triumph for the cup set there. Earlier on in the season, I definitely would have picked Loudoun, but I'm not 100% sure about them right now. Their form has been kind of tanking a bit, and Sacramento kind of started to pick it up a bit. I think that could be a decent match there too. I'm slightly leaning to Sacramento. Hartford, unfortunately, is on fire right now, so I think that they will.
I think Hartford's the most dangerous team right now, because they have a vendetta against us that we've just dialed that to 1,000, and they've just demonstrated to the Legion what they can do. So, like, if you're Hartford and you can get to the final, I feel like of all the teams here, besides maybe a Triumph, not to disrespect USL 1 here for a second, but I think you want one of our two teams, because that's what you're the most hungry for. Whereas Loudoun, Sacramento.
Why not 4 El Clamicos in one season?
I mean, we got to get through
just
Birmingham,
another final.
Taylor, what do you think? Who's the team here? If it's one of us in the final, who are we going against?
I'm just going to go match by match, because I don't know. I want to go Loudon because I think Ordonez, who just got a brace in like 30 minutes in their most recent match for Loudon, I think he just may be the truth. I think that they might have found something again in him. I think that when it comes to San Antonio versus Hartford, San Antonio has been one of the best teams in the league, but have slowed down recently. Hartford is about as hot as it gets, so I'm going to go Hartford. And I unironically think that the Greenville Triumph are going to win, not because cup set, but I think tactically they fit what can be Indy really well. They have transformed themselves into having a proper number 6 who can sit in deep. And Toby Sims has really changed the way that this team can play. Rapapa Mensah is getting to play again, and he is proving why he is one of the best goal scorers. And you have Chapa Herrera, who plays really well between Chapa, between Marsh, between Mensah, between Connor Evans, who's been really, really good for this team. And on top of that, Ben Zawinski, who can come off the bench and win you a game. I think that the Triumph should be the favorite in that match. So I would go between one of those three, depending on how the seeding falls.
Well, I don't like any of those answers. So, I mean, this isn't supposed to be easy, but I do think this is one of the fastest ways and a rare version of the format of whatever the future of this cup is to get this hardware. So it'll be a very exciting game in this midweek match. To Kaylor's point, will not be a sold-out match. These add-ons last minute are nightmares for ticketing to try to get people to. And, you know, despite the fact that there's hardware implications on the line, it's not a game I expect to see. And I think we've seen some of the stands within the stadium not be available for ticket selection. So it should make it a more intimate affair. It should be an exciting match. But I'm just really curious to see what can Rhode Island FC do to play for the crest on the the shield on the kit, the badge itself. You know, what can Birmingham do? I mean, Kaylor, you were saying earlier on that some of these players maybe weren't playing for the jersey. It'll be really interesting to see how these two teams kind of shake out and look at each other. Before we wrap things up, Kaylor, what's the final word from your side? Where can fans catch you? When's the Hammering Down pod dropping? Release the tapes. Give us the good word.
I don't think that's what release the tapes means. But I'm thinking that it'll either be sometime tonight or tomorrow. Hammering Down will drop. But as always, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the USL show goes live. So you can always catch us there.
That's why we never do a Tuesday show. We'll never rain on your parade, ever. The goats.
Thank you. I mean, to be fair, I always try to pop in. I may not comment, but I'm almost always in this chat whenever I can. I always listen in. So
likewise with you guys. I love following along. And then if you are going to be going to the game, gates will open at 6 o'clock for that 7 p.m. match. From what I'm hearing, there won't really be much tailgating. I know that Defiance is doing their kind of pre-game activities at the new High Motor Grill. So if you want to swing by and go hang out there and kind of check out the new establishment and hang out with.
Do you think they have Jaeger there?
They're gonna have to. We're gonna have to take shots at Glory, Jason, on a Wednesday. We're trying to cut back our alcoholic consumption, and it's this tournament being sponsored by an alcohol is difficult. But if you can't make it to the match, you will be able to watch it on ESPN Plus. My RITV's got this one picked up, and so you can watch it there. I don't know. I tried to connect with Tommy Quinlan, the radio announcer, if 790 The Score is going to have it available. He doesn't know yet, so it looks like that's still a decision that's trying to be made. So if you do want it, go bug Cumulus, go bug 790's site and socials and say we want Rhode Island FC on Wednesday night, and give him a solid there. But that's all I got, Jason. What's the final word from you? And what are we doing in between now and Wednesday?
Recovery. Looking forward to taking another shot at glory. Thank you so much, Kaylor, for joining us. It's always a great time having you on. Yeah, I didn't think that this was going to go this long, but I also knew that it was going to, because that's just what we do. Imagine if we actually really prepared for this.
Yeah, our notes this time is 2 pages, everyone. Normally we have 20 pages of content. So
10 to 15 at least.
Kaylor really filling in the gaps there.
Doing the heavy lifting here.
Listen, I'm always down to talk. I got to be honest. There, at some point, the founders started speaking for me. So, like, who knows?
There we go. Awesome. Hey, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Including RFC at theblazymusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RAFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor. There's that website you can check out, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, y'all.
Anchor's up, and let's see what this match has and a shot at glory. Catch you all next time.